There's not one guy, one person in the history of this program that's bigger than the program.
What's better than this? Guys being dudes.
Welcome to episode 138 of the Program Guys podcast. I am Mark Hall, filling in for Mason Prince, who's not here today. Also missing Patrick Hertzberger, but do not despair. We've got Ryan Tyson, myself, and in a triumphant return to the podcast,
triumphant return. I'm back. An unexpected
Vivian
return.
Gann.
That's me. That is the middle name I was given.
Let's start here. How are you? You were absent for reasons that will not be declared. We won't spill your beans.
That sounds terrible. Just it wasn't for any serious reason, y'all. Matt is healthy.
Matt is transitioning through things in life, and so this was just a trip, right?
Yeah, it was a transition out of the country, a lovely trip that my brother and I were able to take for 10 solid days. But man, 10 days is a long time. That's actually the longest I've ever been gone. So happy to be back in the land of the free, the best country in the world, US of A. But great trip. Can't say I didn't have a good time.
Oh, we're glad you're back, homie. So
very glad you're back. Surprised you're back. For little behind the curtains, no one knew Matt was back until Ryan texted today that Matt was back, already back.
Yes, not good service overseas. You know what I mean?
No, it's okay. I know where you
got
were.
home last
and
night.
You have fine service where you were.
Anyway,
sure did.
Ryan, how are you doing?
I'm good, man. I'm getting ready to go out of the country on Saturday, so we're all just traveling.
The Program Guys, world travelers,
because
we got a rotating cast.
Our lovely friend Patrick is also out of the country right now. That's all we'll say. But, Mark, you're next. So,
I was last before this.
Oh yeah, you were.
I was gone a few months ago.
I forgot about that.
I timed my stuff around the college football season like a smart person. But
yeah, no. It's fine.
We'll digress on that.
Learn from that.
Miss you, Mason. Miss you, Ryan. If you're still following along, make sure to follow us on all of our social media.
Patrick.
Oh, sorry, Patrick. You're right. If you're still following along through my errors, which we're not editing out, make sure you follow us on all of our platforms. Definitely follow us on YouTube. That's where we pay the most attention, to be honest. Go follow us on social media at Program Guys with a Z. That's going to be on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube. Like I said, follow us on all of your Spotify or on all of your podcast platforms, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Amazon Podcasts. I think my dad in particular requested that, and so we're pumping out the goods there. I don't know what the Amazon numbers are, but if they're not at least one a week, I riot. So moving on, Matt Gann, wanted to get your take, since you haven't been here, on the Oklahoma Sooners 51-3 victory over the Temple Owls. We obviously did a fun pregame and postgame set of podcasts before and after the game. Make sure you check them out if you haven't. But Matt was out of the country on his beautiful trip. Matt, what did you think of the Sooners' performance on Friday?
Yeah, I'll keep it short and sweet. I was unfortunately not able to watch the game myself, but was able to see because of the bad service and being 7 hours ahead. You know what I mean? So the game was technically at like 2 a.m. During my time. So I was fast asleep. The highlights, everything I saw, OU handled their business. They needed to. I was really impressed with the 6 turnovers. I thought that was going to be probably the biggest thing I wanted to see was the takeaways. And man, that defensive line and the secondary and linebackers really proved that they have an absolute couple of different units on all 3 levels of the defense that got involved. I think there were 6 tackle for losses along with the 6 takeaways. So defense looks great. Can we continue that against better opponents? But I think in the game on Friday night, we handled business. Jackson Arnold needed to do what he did on short fields. Didn't need to be spectacular, but you see a lot of transfers making impacts, such as Deion Burks, and will continue to do so. Love the way that OU came out, really just pressed the gas on the pedal. And hopefully they can continue doing that with a upcoming Houston team that just got demolished by UNLV. So hopefully looking forward just to take a couple more steps as we continue the next few weeks. But I think there's a lot of good things to build on. Just want to see the offense be a little bit more cleaner, especially the offensive line. Looks like Jackson Arnold was taking quite a bit of pressure, and looks like the offensive line was getting a little bit bullied by a Temple team that's not really known for that. But a lot of good stuff to continue to work on, I think.
Good thoughts there, Ryan. Do you have any additional thoughts on the game since Friday or Saturday since we recorded?
I think like we're gonna get into it a little bit more when we talk about the Houston game and kind of what we're previewing. I think there's a couple bodies that are back now, especially I'm watching the offensive line. I think it's gonna look different than it did against Temple, which I think is a good thing. You know, if you need to hear my thoughts on the offensive line, go back to our 2 previous pods. I agree with everything Matt said.
Good recap on a game you admitted immediately you did not watch, Matt. That was awesome.
that was great.
That was good. Moving on, we're going to go a little bit forward and then backwards and then forward again. It'll make sense when we get there. We're going to talk about the week 2 captains. This was a weekly thing we did last year, and it's a weekly thing Brent Venables is going to keep up. So I guess we're going to do it again this year. Let's start with a couple of guys who sort of looked maybe even better than expected last week. We start with Javonte Barnes and Kendall Dolby. I think that those 2 dudes earned the spot last week, and considering, you know, maybe they want to get some guys snaps at Cheetah, maybe you've got some other halfbacks or tailbacks that are looking to break through, go ahead and get these guys their captain spots. I think those are good positions or good spots.
Yeah, I agree.
Any thoughts?
I agree with that. I still, if you go back, if you have been with us for 3 years now, you will notice that none of us have any idea how these captains are chosen, and I don't think anyone ever does. So like we're kind of just like pulling straws at this point. We're being like, oh yeah, this seems good. So yeah, I mean the Javonte Barnes, Kendall Dolby, especially Kendall Dolby, I'm really high on this year. I thought Barnes looked great last week too. You have Ethan Downs here, who not a surprise to see in week 2. You know, he's I don't know if you would call him a veteran. I guess you could call him a veteran of this team.
No, absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah.
He's an OG.
Well, yeah, he's an OG of this defense, really. And I think that is, again, we saw week 1 kind of the people that we expect to be captains. We have, you know, the QB, we have Danny, we have Billy, we have people like that we're expecting to be the captains. This week, it's more like, okay, now who's that second layer? And you have Javonte, you have Kendall Dolby, you have Ethan Downs. We haven't talked yet about Jake Roberts, which I think is an interesting pick.
Probably the backup tight end, you know, sometimes starting with Bauer Sharp, it'll look like.
But Bauer Sharp was the captain last week, and then finally Zach Schmidt. I mean, we've talked a lot about Zach Schmidt last year, and usually in negative context, if we're being honest. But he does have the starting job this year of kickoff, so he is no longer a field goal kicker. More to come on that, but he is definitely our kickoff kicker. Is that what you call it? Is that the
designated kicker?
Designated kicker. So
I'm not sure, Matt. So any thoughts on Downs and Roberts and Schmidt as selections for captain? I have thoughts on a couple of them, but I want to hear yours first.
Yeah, it's quite a multifaceted group. When you think about Ethan Downs being that seasoned veteran, Kendall Dolby being a high impact player, playing that cheetah position that's so vital in BV's system. And if we've seen all the stats, it's really that year 3 of the complex defenses when things start to get rolling. And the cheetah position, it's got to have a super athletic guy that can just roam around the field, play in different spots all over. And you saw Dolby did that exactly in Temple. I mean, I just see highlights of him going after the quarterback in the backfield, making tackles, breaking up passes. I mean, that's exactly what you want out of the cheetah position. So it's just going to be a very important player moving forward in this scheme. And then you talk about Javonte Barnes, who we thought had a little bit of a falling out last year, had some injury problems, and there was a lot of rumors spiraling that him and DeMarco didn't have a good relationship. Maybe he's moving on, and now he's sitting here as a week 2 captain who had a pretty good first game and probably will continue to be heavily utilized as that running back backfield gets sorted out. But left to right, and then Jake Roberts and Zach Smith maybe not as highly important, especially with the depth that we have with the starting kicker and with Bauer Sharp coming in, who looked phenomenal, obviously catching the first touchdown pass of the season. Not sure if anyone had that on their bingo card for first touchdown reception to Bauer Sharp, but man, I think BV's made a lot of good moves in the transfer portal with some of these guys, and Bauer Sharp might be the tight end moving forward, and maybe somebody else can step up. What we talked about last year, the tight end room was probably the weakest position group out of all last year. And it looks like we've definitely had an upward trend in that good direction on that end.
Agreed on that. With the thoughts I wanted to share real fast. Ethan Downs, I'm a little surprised it's week 2. That seems like a guy who could, once they pick their final captains, whenever they choose to do it, he's someone that I could see be in that list. So I'm a little bit surprised. Whereas, Jackson Arnold was one last week. Okay, but he's your quarterback, right? That dude has to walk out day 1. Ethan Downs, I'm a little surprised to see now. Makes me wonder what they foresee from that defensive end room, but I want to stay positive here, so not going to go there. Jake Roberts, Brent Venables has raved about what he's brought just as a leader, as an adult, as a senior to the offensive locker room and to the tight end room. I think we're going to see plenty of him throughout the season as they vary up their offensive looks to, just get their guys the ball. I don't know how much he's going to be catching it, but I think he's going to be on the field plenty. And Zach Schmidt.
Oh, man.
A little tough and ironic to throw him the captaincy this week, because just after it was Monday, I suppose.
Mm-hmm.
Tyler Keltner was named the SEC Special Teams Player of the Week for week 1. The first SEC honor bestowed upon any Oklahoma athlete goes to Tyler Keltner, the transfer
who had that on their bingo card.
Kicker.
Yeah, I was just about to say that.
Who nailed 3 field goals. The first one from 50, the second from 42, the third from somewhere much closer. And once he hit number 50, or the 50-yarder, I feel like we knew. Like we knew we had something a little bit different cooking in that room. So well-deserved by Tyler Keltner. And man, lick your wounds and come back stronger, Zach Schmidt. You're going to be okay. You're going to be okay, big guy.
He got that captain spot for week 2. I mean, I just kind of talking about Keltner a little bit more. If you want to hear his rave about having a kicker, please go listen to our post-game pod that we dropped on Friday. No, Saturday, I believe. Saturday. And just this feels like such a foreign concept of having a field goal kicker, and especially everyone on the pod knows that I'm a Minnesota Vikings fan, and the Minnesota Vikings are historically awful at field goal kicking. Just cannot get a kicker. Just have lost multiple close games because we cannot kick the ball. And so it's just really nice to be able to have a kicker that you're like, oh, this is a 50-yarder. Yeah, I feel pretty good about it. I feel pretty good. So, yeah, I just kudos to Tyler Keltner, and he should get all the flowers for his performance last week.
Yeah, it's great to have confidence in a guy that can kick those long field goals if need be. And they were really down the middle. I mean, I watched all 3 of them. Very clean holds, very clean kicks. It's good to see that guy. First 50-yard field goal since 2021 for the Oklahoma Sooners. That's a little bit disgusting, and it all started with the burrito kick. Ever since the burrito kick, OU's kicking has just been cursed. Hopefully it has now been lifted from what we saw on Friday. Gives BV the opportunity if he wants to go for it. If not, he's got the confidence in his kicker to make it and get 3 points and have that ability to do so. So really great to get that honor again, take it off the bingo card. A couple first things for the
Crazy.
SEC. So it's great to have a guy like him in the backfield on our special teams.
It's interesting how quickly time moves, because 2021 in terms of, even the NFL is not necessarily that long, but in college football, that's an eternity. We had such good kicking for 10 years in the 10 years before that 2021 season. And then you look at what it's been since then, and we can't catch a break. And it feels like it's been much longer than that 10 years before it. Interesting stuff. Shout out to Tyler Keltner. Love him already. Cannot be more excited that he is going to be the one taking those kicks for Oklahoma moving forward. Let's get on to our Houston preview. As we normally do, we'll go offense, then we'll go defense. There's some updates to provide on the offensive side. Ryan alluded to it. We've got Jake Taylor coming back. He's going to be playing the right tackle position. Thank goodness that Spencer Brown will not be. That is the biggest update we can possibly give you. And Branson Hickman is questionable start at center. We heard from Gary and Hatchett earlier in the week, just basically expressing that he felt the offensive line wasn't good enough. He understands what the standard is at the University of Oklahoma, what the standard is for Bill Biedenbaugh, and they just didn't come together. So at least they know in the room the way that we all feel outside of the room, right? They're aware that this just wasn't what it needed to be. Moving past just the offensive line, Jaquez Petaway has apparently been dealing with some sort of injury, and
a hamstring.
Yeah, they said hamstring,
something like a hamstring. No one knew he was hurt.
We just didn't know, and that's the weird thing about being a fan, right? Is we just didn't know. But Jaquez Petaway is supposed to be back this week. Hammies are always weird, so watch out for that. And Nick Anderson is still day-to-day. I think that's actually where I want to start with you guys, is what do you want to see from the receiver room this week? And does it sort of start with getting a spark out of your Deion Burks and your Jaquez Petaways if he's up for the task? Matt, go ahead.
I think Deion Burks, who had, and correct me if I'm wrong, 3 touchdowns in the first half. I don't think that hasn't happened in quite some time for an OU football program. So it's good to see that the transfer is already coming in and making an impact. Want to see that to continue against a Houston team that did not fare well against UNLV last week, losing 27-7, giving up quite a bit of yards. So I want to see offensively, very similar, Jackson Arnold continue to have that confidence to make those throws. Even under pressure in his face, he was stepping in and made some really great throws, but also had quite a few drops that I saw that looks like receivers were looking upfield before catching, already trying to anticipate where they're going to run. So I just want to see some clean football out of the wide receivers, catch the ball first, then make some yards after the catch. But obviously Deion Burke to continue to lead that room, but also get some of these young guys in there as well. If Nick Anderson's not going to go, Petaway's still a little bit injured. Let's see more of an Ivan Karan. Let's see some of these younger guys step up with all these injuries, especially with no Jaden Gibson and obviously Farouk being out for the next 2 months. So let's get some of these guys some more reps against the Houston teams. That's really not very good.
Dude, it is so interesting that Ivan Carrion hit the field last week, that they thought, hey, that's where we should go. Now, consider that last week you're missing Nick Anderson and you are missing Jaden Gibson, obviously, all year. So the size he offers you is a little bit different from everyone else, especially when JJ Hester has 2 drops. But Ryan, what are you expecting to see from the receiver room? What are you hoping to see? Who do you think Jackson Arnold goes to this week?
I mean, I think the answer is he probably goes to Burks and Bauer Sharp. Like, those are his, at least from what I saw, those are his 2 people. Like, we're working off an N of 1 here, like an N of 1 that Jackson
is an insane pull in a casual OU fans podcast.
We're working off one game that we've seen, right? And so I'm like, oh yeah, it's going to be those 2 guys. But really, what I want to see is he able to expand from that? We talked a lot about, like I'm looking at last week, and Bauer Sharp got 5 receptions, Burke got 6, Brendan Thompson got 4, and then you had 1 for Andrell Anthony, 1 for Ivan Carrion. So I want to see the numbers of other than Sharp and Burks go up. And I know that we pulled Jackson Arnold in like the third quarter, but I want to be able to see, are we able to spread it out besides just Burks, who's exceptionally talented, and I'm like, his performance last week was wonderful, but are we able to spread it out to people like Petaway, to people like Brennan Thompson, to people like Andrell Anthony, and then like how does Petaway fit into that? And I know I already said Petaway, but how he's been injured, how is he going to fit into that? How much is he going to be playing? We lost a huge weapon when Farouk went down. And if Nick Anderson is still not able to play, I need to see the others be able to step up. But that also starts with Jackson like targeting those people.
Yep, totally agree. Last week, I think we mentioned it on the podcast in the post game. 3 players got more than 1 reception. And that's just not the makings of an efficient and productive offense against a real defense. And Houston might not have that, but you still want to see something. I know that things stay vanilla, but let's spread the wealth a little bit. I think we can all agree on that. Moving back to the offensive line, none of us are experts. We're not going to pretend to be experts on the offensive line, but to see the performance that Spencer Brown gave last week and then know that that will be replaced by a much more competent Jake Taylor this week, I'm pretty pleased with that. The center position is going to be difficult because I couldn't tell you who's going to start. I have no idea. There's no way to know, but it seems like they're going to do all they can to at least get both Hickman and Hatchett available for the game. And that seems like where we're at. Everyone has said within the room, within the building, it's going to look better this week. It's going to look better this week. But isn't that what you have to say if you're in their position?
You
Matt,
can't just be like, no, it's going to be bad. Sorry, gang.
Right. Yeah. No. Sorry. Yeah. No. Ryan, you're great, but Matt, what do we think on this?
Well, I think it's going to be as you continue to play better opponents. I'm just thinking of that game against Tennessee where they have the #1 edge player in probably all of college football, and James Pierce. He's probably going to have a field day unless our left tackle and our left guard can figure it out, or at least Bill B can figure out what lineup.
Jake Roberts
could be the answer, but this is what we talk about every year: is that
every play.
Yeah, Bill B is going to change the lineup. So I'll actually be curious, other than we know Jake Taylor's coming in, of how they're going to shuffle the offensive line, especially with the injuries at center. Center being that anchoring position to really help Jackson Arnold. That's a big deal, especially if he's not taking any reps under these other guys. And obviously Hatchett doing a good job. But it seems like from what I've heard and talked through is that once Branson Hickman went down, it just wasn't that great of a performance from the offensive line. So the center position really matters. Hopefully we can get either Troy Everett or Hickman back in there, or the entire game. You guys would know better than I. But we talk about the offensive line was probably the biggest question mark going into the year, and it continues to be the biggest question mark after week 1. So hopefully Bill B can shuffle the line, get some more healthy bodies in there, and they can figure it out. Jackson Arnold's going to need a lot more time against better opponents to make those throws and find the receivers.
So Mark, maybe you know this and I don't, but did they shift the offensive line a little bit when Michael Hawkins came in? Because I feel like that, like running the ball.
Yes, I know we saw different guys come in. We saw some of the freshmen come in and play, at least at like the guard positions. I couldn't tell you any sort of specifics past that.
Got it. I know like the coaches are looking at all that and they're the experts, but just from like a completely casual viewership, the offensive line looked much stronger when like Michael Hawkins was the quarterback and we were running the ball a lot more. And I think that was probably a lot of things going on and a lot of variables in play.
I think Temple kept their starters in. And if they did, man, those guys have played a long game against good players.
Refreshed.
That's where I lean on that, but I don't know that they kept their starters in. I can't tell you for sure, but just where my head
just
goes.
a casual fan's view is like, oh, okay, their offensive line performance got a little better toward the end of the game, I thought. But it was still not where it needed to be, like
and to lean back on what we said, in the post game, there might be a spot for one of those freshmen, EPL or Eugene Brooks at that left guard position, because I don't think you unseat Febechiwewu at right guard. I think that he's got a rapport with Seth Luttrell. He likes having him there. He trusts him, but that left guard spot is relatively open for the taking, especially in a Bill Bedenbaugh offensive line. So very interested to see how that all plays out. Do you guys have any final thoughts on the offense? Any thoughts on the running back rotation before we move on to the defense?
I think they're going to do. Yeah. Go ahead. You didn't get to talk about Tatum.
Go ahead, Matt.
Tatum, dude, he is a dog. He just reminds me, and you guys might have said in the post game, but just reminds me of freshman year of Adrian Peterson. I mean, just the way he moves.
That's a pull.
I can't
pull.
Other people have said it too. I can't do this.
So explosive, just looked really good. I really want to see him get some more run against a Houston team that just gave up 200 yards on the ground to UNLV. Want to see Taylor Tatum just get his chance to rock and roll, get a lot more reps, a lot more snaps under his belt. He's just too good to keep off the field. And I think, Mark, you said it before the year started that you wouldn't be surprised if he continued to work his way up the depth chart. And I think he proved. How do you keep him off the field when he's just so good at making cuts? And even though they weren't between the tackles, he's so good at getting outside and cutting back in and just so fast. I mean, there's a reason why he was the number one running back in his class.
My take was he'd be RB2 by midseason. And so long as Gavin Sawchuk puts up the lowest yards per carry on the team, he might be RB1 by midseason. And it's not, I mean, the same thing applies to Taylor Tatum that applies to the way the offensive line played, right? If Temple has all their starters in, then he's coming in fresh and it's a different sort of ball game. He's a 5-star athlete, all of that stuff, playing Temple. Everything there is conceded. And also, he's one of the guys that move different on the field. Kyler Murray was this way. CeeDee Lamb was this way. Caleb even was this way.
What about your favorite person?
Don't say my favorite person. You talking about my favorite runner, Joe Mason? You talking Joe?
That's what I'm talking about.
Joe.
Let's not go this way.
Joe's got a lot. Joe had a lot, but I don't think Joe moved. They glided the way necessarily that Taylor Tatum does. The movement that he brings laterally is just like a little funky different how he's making people miss.
It's that baseball in him.
It's one game. We're so stupid even doing this, but he looks special, man. He looks special.
He looks great.
Yeah, Ryan, if all right, let's set Taylor Tatum over here, right? Hopefully he gets 8 carries and we're all psyched on the 8 carries. Who do you want to get the rest of them?
I think it's Barnes. I think he showed the most promise in game 1. I think, we've talked a lot about Barnes and Sawchuk together, and they just kind of, I don't know, we see them go up and down just depending on the day. You'll see one have a really good performance, one have another really good performance. I think for Javonte Barnes is the first person in week 2 captains. He is the front of the little icon. He performed after Taylor Tatum last week. He performed the best out of the running backs. I think Sam Franklin was also performing pretty well too. So I think it's going to be his shot here. That's my personal opinion. Is he's always going to have a shot. Him and Sawchuk are kind of the 2 main ones right now. But as you guys have talked about, Taylor Tatum is arguably the most talented out of all of them, probably. And like I think that showed in the first game. But again, a lot of variables going into it. A lot of that was toward the end of the game. There could have been a lot of things going on. So overall, I want to see Barnes get more playing time or more carries. I want to see Jackson Arnold run the ball less. So like these things kind of go hand in hand.
Yeah.
Like I'm looking at the carries from last week and he had 11 and the next closest was Gavin at 6. Like no.
It has to do with the way Jackson is getting those carries, right?
Yeah.
We saw some Jack offense, and that's not what anyone wants to see, right? You want to see either like a rollout that gives him space where he can make a decision. You want to see him scrambling on plays where he doesn't find someone open. You don't want to see designed runs for your true sophomore 5-star quarterback whose arm probably carries your entire season. I don't think it's too like strong of a way to put it, because if he goes down, none of the backup options have Jackson Arnold stuff. Not yet. They just don't. And I really did not like seeing him just dive into the line as often as he did. Dive in for a yard or two from the shotgun. What are we doing there?
Yeah, we gotta
protect him. We gotta protect. He's gonna take enough risks on his own, and I love when he takes those risks. We don't need to put him in position to make it a lot worse. My answer to the question I asked you, Ryan, I want to see Caleb Hicks. I don't understand why we're not seeing Caleb Hicks. I think that's sort of tough for
We didn't
Caleb
even
Hicks.
see him last week, right?
I don't, he got 0 carries.
Yeah.
I don't think that he played on offense at all, but I could be proven wrong on that.
Yeah.
That's someone that I want to see get some snaps, and let us just see. I want to know how to feel about him after seeing him on the field. We had freaking Marcus Major and Tawi Walker splitting carries last year. Let's see Caleb Hicks. Moving to the defense, Matt Gann. Just go with it, man.
What do you want to see?
Donovan Smith comes in as a fairly highly touted quarterback, but obviously did not live up to expectations last week against UNLV. Willie Fritz he's proven to be an accomplished coach, man. He
Brand
took
new,
Tulane to sites heretofore never seen. But it does appear like they might be having some growing pain. Yeah, I was right.
That was impressive.
It worked.
That was impressive.
But it does appear that there's some growing pains in Houston here, year one. Matt, what do you want to see from the defense here in week 2 against the Houston Cougars? That's it.
Same thing as last week. Come out strong with multiple turnovers, creating short fields, creating opportunities for the offense to get out there and score points. And I had a good feeling that OU was going to cover against Temple if they created those opportunities, and they did exactly. Houston gave up 6 sacks last week and 10 tackles for loss. So this will be just another feasting opportunity for the defensive line, these linebackers and safeties, to make these plays, but just want to continue to see them take away the ball. I think BV mentioned it in his presser, I think, when he talks about when the Sooners win the turnover margin, they're really unstoppable to beat. Well, when they're losing the turnover margin, that's when games start to get lost. I think last year when we had those couple losses, I think we were plus 15 in that category. So turnovers are a huge deal. Just want to see that continue and see that D line continue to get some good rotation, because man, that's scary to see all those guys getting involved.
Ryan, let's set. Actually, that's not.
Ooh, we're not going to set something?
We're not going to set something aside. We were going to. I was going to say, let's set aside the Grayson Halton performance from last week. Who else do you want to see? But then I thought, isn't it much more interesting if we see Grayson Halton come out and have...
That was actually going to be one of my things.
Smith, right?
I want to see if he can keep it up.
This. Yeah. Because he's not a guy who's a starter, right? It seems like Dominic Williams, Jaden Jackson are going to be those guys. But if you come in on passing downs, those are your opportunities. And we're starting to see G-Baby, which is a real nickname, not just a me nickname.
It sounds like a you nickname, though.
right? Isn't it good?
It does.
I like it a lot.
Yeah, I think we've talked about this a lot in like preseason, but these first three games against, against Temple and then against Houston and against Tulane, these are really the opportunity for these guys to show the coaching staff like what they're made of and to win like playing time essentially. Like and Grayson Halton did that last week. I mean, he had the best performance on defense. I mean, like a sack and a half. Well, maybe not best performance on defense, but one of the biggest surprises of the defense, I think. And is he going to get the same opportunity to do it again? I think he probably will. Can he live up to it is the more interesting question. Was this just a fluke? Was this something that we've expected all along and now we're seeing it? Is it something that he can continue to do? Those are just fascinating questions that I have, and I'm really excited to see how that kind of plays out this game on this weekend. I think the biggest thing for me on defense is I would like to see more, and Matt already touched on this, but we need to be able to get to the quarterback. I want to see pressure. I want to continue to see a lot of sacks, and not just because that this is one of my best chances to get to my 50 sack prediction, but because
it is
part of it. But I think that this Houston team is not good. Like I watched a little bit of the UNLV game, and they just have. We can get to this quarterback. This defense can hurt this team. And I just need them to be able to keep up what they did last week into this week and do not slow down. Because I worry that sometimes we get into these situations, especially the past few years, where we have a really, really good first game and then like an Army shows up or a Tulane shows up, which I know we're playing Tulane the following week, but they show up and all of a sudden we only win by like 3 points. And I don't think that can happen against Houston. Even like, I don't think we can allow that to happen. So I want to see the defense be as suffocating as it was last week.
I agree. Oklahoma is favored by 30 points in this game. This line opened at 26. We're now at 30. I think it's going to take a big performance by the defense to make sure that stays in line. There's a lot that could be said, but I think that, the linebacker position feels all arrows pointing up right now. You definitely want to keep seeing those guys make plays, right? But I'm not sure that we could provide a whole lot of analysis past, man, they looked good, and I hope Jaren doesn't mess up. That's about what I have for the linebackers. In the defensive back room, everyone did their job last week. Obviously, Woody Washington didn't play. Gentry Williams didn't play. And on the scoreboard, those things didn't really show up because you're playing Temple. I'll be interested to see, Matt, do we know if those guys are returning this week? I know they were both in places last week where it was like, hey, if it's a playoff game, they're in. But do we think they're going to play this week? Have you seen anything? Ryan, you too. I didn't mean to just
you're
go
good.
Matt there, but I don't know the answer to the question.
I don't think I've seen anything recent. It seems very similar to like Nick Anderson. They're being more cautious than anything just because of the depth that the Sooners have and knowing that if we get up early, we don't necessarily need them to play. So it will be interesting to see if these guys get run or not, or if they are able to go. But I think BB is going to be more cautious than anything. So it'll be interesting to see as we go through the week if they are going to give a go or not. But I haven't seen anything, no.
Yeah, I don't really know. I don't know where we're going to stand on those guys playing. I mean, obviously, Des Malone looked good last week. Kanai Walker looked good last week.
Jennings.
Jacoby Johnson got in some trouble, but man, you can't take him off the field the way that he looks. And Makari Vickers didn't play, and I haven't heard anything about his availability for this week. So lots of like ups and downs, question marks in the DB room, even though it feels like a pretty good place for the Oklahoma Sooners. I don't have anything else to hit on for the defense. Did you guys have anything before we hit our score predictions and our MVPs?
I don't think so. I'm expecting a lot of the same. That's my main thing. Well, I'm expecting better play from the offense, but like
at least the O-line, right?
No, I'm never
A little more
satisfied.
distribution with the receivers. Matt, what you got? Anything before we go on defense?
Nope, that's it.
Good stuff. Score prediction time. I'm gonna not go first. Ryan, what's your score prediction for this game? Line is 30.
42-7.
I love it. I love it. Matt Gann?
That's my feeling.
Well, here's the thing: if OU can improve third down efficiency, where what they went 1 for 11 last
for
week,
11, I think technically,
yeah,
but they
2 for
came in
11.
garbage time.
Something atrocious. Either way, they still hung 100 on Temple. I think Houston might be worse, and I think that third down conversion rate was a fluke last week. I think they convert a couple more, keep some more drives alive, get some more defensive turnovers. I think we hang another 50 on them. I'm going to go 55-10.
I love that. I love the optimism on offense. I'm super excited to hear you say it because it's not just me doing that stuff this week. I'm going to go 45-10. I think that the offense shows up, absolutely, but sort of similar to last week, we take the foot off the pedal there towards the end of the game. I think you see a little bit more scoring out of Houston earlier in the game than we saw. And yeah, 45-10, that's where I land. So Oklahoma covers by all of our predictions. Let's see if that ends up being true. We could end up making a lot of money, fellas. Nothing else on the Houston game from us. So let's wrap this thing up. PGP MVPs of the week, Matt Gann.
Yeah, mine's gonna be obvious. He also got the game ball after the game. I'm gonna go defensive coordinator Zach Alley, who called the entire game defensively for the Oklahoma Sooners, and I don't think could have done any better with the 6 turnovers, multiple tackles for losses. The defense was just flying around. It was incredible to see. I think all praise goes to Zach Alley, and hopefully he can continue that going into Houston. So that's my MVP of the week.
Fantastic choice. We finally got to hear him after the
I
game.
know.
Yep.
First time since the hire, which just feels a little funky to me. Ryan Tyson, MVP, hit us.
I'm gonna do LVP.
Ooh, I love it.
I'm gonna do the northern 95% of the state of Florida because Florida State and Florida, the University of Florida, had some tough games last week, and I'm saying the top 95% because I think Miami actually looked very, very good, and I think Cam Ward is an incredible athlete. However, my LVP goes to specifically Florida State Seminoles for losing their second game to Boston College at home, 28-13. They had already lost to Georgia Tech in Ireland. We talked about that game. And this was a team that went, I believe, was it 12-0? They went undefeated, were not selected for the playoff last year, played Georgia, got demolished by Georgia, but also like didn't play in any of their starters, so everyone thought that was a fluke. Well, they now have lost 3 in a row. So really tough on Mike Norvell and that Florida State team. They really have to turn it around. And then the University of Florida also having a tough time, especially with all of the talent that they are able to bring in. I mean, Florida State also brings in a lot of talent, but they got demolished by their rivals, Miami, 41-17 in the Swamp. It was not pretty. There was a lot of chatter about how University of Florida stuck like the visiting team section like way at the top of the stadium, like way up, like so far away, and they only gave them like 4,000 seats or something like that in the Swamp. And then they just got their ass kicked. So it's not great for the state of Florida right now, other than the city of Miami. So my LVP is 95% North Florida.
I'm going to go off the beaten path with mine, a little bit off of my normal. I'm going to go MVP Marvel TV Studios for one specific choice they made. Now, I'm not incredibly looking forward to the Agatha All Along TV show. I'm gonna watch it for sure. I'll definitely watch it, and I may even enjoy it. But on the poster that they've been circulating for it, you've got, and this will only land for a certain subsection of people. You've got Kitty Foreman on the far left from That 70s Show as one of the people on the lead of the poster, and she is so clearly out of place there that you know it's on purpose and they're having fun. And I loved it so much. I giggled at seeing her there. Marvel, man, make fun of yourself. That's apparently the phase we're in right now.
Well, she was
before
Downey
makes it.
though.
No, she was. She was.
So like that's why she's there.
For sure.
I think.
She's a character in this
yeah,
continuity,
the Kitty
in this
Foreman
show, 100%. But she wasn't like leading the promotional material before. And I think it's so funny that they're including her there. So little lighthearted nothingness there from me. MVP Marvel. It's the first time they've gotten it in a long time.
Might be the last.
Might be the last. Let's see how this Downey thing goes.
Guys,
let's see.
Guys,
Matt, go ahead.
You know what we didn't even talk about? Two
What?
former OU Sooners going to be playing on Houston's team. We didn't even talk about the biggest one.
Oh, we
Latrell
didn't.
McCutcheon.
Did we? Oh God, I forgot about that.
Are we
Maybe
sure he's
because
gonna
I've-
play?
Maybe because I've blacked that out of my memory.
Are we
What a
sure he's
saga.
gonna play?
He might not
played-
play.
Like I just
Played
don't.
last
I just,
week. So
Good, I hope
two
so.
former guys. Does anyone know the other OU
yeah,
Sooner?
Jamal Lewis. He was a linebacker. I saw
Jamal
it.
Morris. Good try.
Jamal
though.
Morris,
Ooh.
not Lewis. My bad.
That's close
Wow.
though.
Yeah,
But yeah, the whole
I saw
Latrell
the same
McCutcheon
tweet.
saga. Crazy comes back to Norman. What a circle of life.
overarching LVP Latrell McCutcheon.
And his dad's
sucks.
tweet
And
that
his
one
dad's
time.
tweets.
Sucks to be you guys, dog. That sucks, man. And with that, episode 138 is going to be a wrap. Make sure you like and subscribe. And oh my God, if you could leave us a comment down below, you know that we'd appreciate that. We see all your comments. We reply when we can, or if they're good enough, honestly. And
good enough.
yeah, like if they're response provoking.
It's Bud's
If
week.
they're just good comments, I love it. But make sure you go like, subscribe, comment, follow us on all of our other social media at Program Guys with a Z. And man, let's go beat the heck out of Houston this week.
Bud
I don't know why
Wilkinson
we
week.
won
Let's
it.
go, baby. Bud
I
Wilkinson.
don't know why we won it. Ryan, take us out.
Keep pushing it, baby.
There's not one guy, one person in the history of this program that's bigger than the program.
What's better than this? Guys being dudes.